Good morning. Today we are going to cover section 12.1. 12.1 deals with simplifying rational expressions. So take the time to copy your essential question. How do you simplify expressions that contain polynomials on the numerator and the denominator such as this? We're going to go through three examples. So this should be a short lesson for all of us. Copy it down, pause it, and then we'll continue once you're ready. Excellent. So in this case, we are just simplifying. So this is a set of expressions that we need to simplify. And we are going to do so by factoring. Now, many of you guys will be tempted to cancel your x squares, but because of this plus and minus, you're not able to cancel your x squares. It's not a valid step. So what we're going to do instead, we are just going to take the time to factor. Now, if you're not too sure how to factor, I'm going to place a link so you can review your factoring first. But in this case, we have a trinomial. So we have 1, 2, 3 terms. So I'm going to use my double parentheses. And factors of x squared will give me x and x. Factors of 4 will give me 2 and 2 or 4 and 1. Only one of them is going to work. And you need to be able to decide which one. Remember that that's a negative 4. So one of them should be negative, the other one should be positive. So therefore, I need to end up with a positive 3. So which one should I use? 2 and 2 or 4 and 1? Correct, I should use 4 and 1. One of them should be positive, the other one should be negative since that's a negative 4. So that'll be a positive 4 and a negative 1. Remember that if we double check and we multiply it out, if you multiply your x times negative 1 is negative 1x. And if I multiply my positive 4 times x gives me positive 4x. And if I add them together, gives me the 3x that I need. And if you want to just double check the entire, you can say x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. 4 times x is 4x, so that gives you 3x. And 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Denominator. That's a binomial, but do you remember what this is called? This is called the difference of two squares, because that's a square and that's a square, and there's a minus in between. So we're going to use double parentheses. Factors of x squared will give me x and x. Factors of 1, 1 and 1, 1 negative and 1 positive. And now, these two binomials are multiplying each other. So you can think of this as being together. This is together, and they're multiplying each other. This binomial and this binomial, there's nothing in between them, so therefore they're multiplying each other. And I can cancel. X minus 1 and x minus 1 cancels each other out. So therefore, I end up with x plus 4 over x plus 1. And once again, we are tempted to cancel those two x's, but because of the plus, it doesn't allow, you cannot cancel them. It needs to be a multiplication in between in order to cancel terms or polynomials or binomials. And this is your answer. Now, once you go into Algebra 2, you'll need the skills to be able to work on more complex problems. You'll be able to graph this type of equations that we never done in Algebra 1. And you'll be able to solve more complex problems. And you'll need the skills to be able to do so. So let's continue with letter B. We have a binomial. So how can I factor this out? Right. When you have a binomial, if you want to be able to see if you can take out a common factor. So you need to think, is there a number that divides 2 and 6? Yes, 2. Do they both have an x? Yes. How many x's can I take out? 2 of them. So I can factor a x squared. So 2x squared will be factored out. I'm going to open my parentheses, and what's left behind? 2x squared multiplied by what will give you 2x to the third. So 2x squared times 2. So 2 times what gives you 2? That'll be 1. X squared times what will give you x to the third. I have 2 x's, so I need 1 more. And I don't need the 1 in here, right? What do I need to multiply 2x squared to end up with negative 6x squared? So 2 times negative 3. X squared. I only need an x squared, so therefore I don't need any additional x's. Over. This is a trinomial, so we're going to use double parentheses. Factors of 3x squared will be 3x and x. Factors of 3 can be 3 times 1, or that's it. I need to end up with a negative 10x. So I need to decide where should be my 3? Should be here or here? My 3 should be here, correct. And my 1 should be here. Because if I multiply it out, that gives me 9. And 1 more is the 10 that I need. Now remember that this is a positive 3. So therefore, they both should be positives or both should be negatives. And they need to add up to a negative 10, so they both should be negatives. And now, this is a factor. This is together, there's no plus or minus. This is a factor. This is a factor. And this is a factor. So which one cancels out? Correct. There's no 1 in here, but we can place a 1 as a coefficient since we know it's there. That cancels out. And what do we have left? We have a 2x squared over 3x minus 1. And we are done. And that's what we are doing today. Example number 2 will be exactly the same process. Go and write down, pause it, and we'll continue once you are ready. Excellent. So in this case, I have a trinomial and I have a binomial. So let's go and factor your trinomial first. We have 3 terms, so I'm going to use my double parentheses. Factors of x squared will give me x and x. Factors of 8 can be 4 times 2 or 8 times 1. I need to end up with a negative 2x. So what should I use? Correct, I should use 4 and 2. Now that's a negative 8. That means that one of them should be negative, the other one should be positive. I need to end up with a negative 2x, so which one should be negative? Correct, the negative 4, and that should be a positive 2. If I multiply it out, x times x is x squared. X times, so you distribute the x to both. X times x is x squared. X times 2x is 2x positive. And now I'm going to distribute the negative 4. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. This middle term is obtained by this negative, by adding those 2 middle terms. But we usually, at this point, we just multiply the outside numbers, multiply the inside numbers, and gives me 2x and negative 2x. And most of you guys can do this in your head at this time. Denominator, what do we call this? They're both squares, and there's a minus in between. That is correct, the difference of 2 squares. So now use double parentheses. Factors of x squared are x and x. Factors of 16 are 4 and 4. That's a negative 16, so 1 negative and 1 positive. Remember that the reason that we don't have a middle term in there is because whenever you multiply x times 4 is positive 4x, Negative 4 times x is negative 4x, so they cancel out. And that's called the difference of two squares. And now, this is a factor, this is a factor, this is a factor, and that's a factor. So which one cancels out? The x minus 4. And what's left behind? We have x plus 2 over x plus 4. For letter C, we have a binomial over a trinomial. I need to factor this denominator first, a binomial. So what can I do? So we know it's not the difference of two squares because 3 is not a square and the x is not being squared. But we know that we can factor a common term, take a common factor, so we need to think, what number divides 3 and also divides 15? 3. And what's left behind? 3 multiplied by what will give you 3x? 3 times x. 3 multiplied by what will give you 15? Negative 5. Denominator, trinomial. How can I factor out? Double parentheses. Factors of 2x squared will be 2x and x. Factors of 5, 5 and 1. Now that's a negative 5. That means that they need to have different signs. One negative, one positive. And once I add them together, the middle terms, they need to add up to a negative 9x. So therefore, where should I place my 5? Here or here? Correct. It should be here. And one negative, one positive. That should be, and my 1 should be here. One negative, one positive, which should be my negative. Negative 5 and positive 1. Because if I multiply this out, it gives me a negative 10 plus 1 is the negative 9 that I need. And this is a factor. This is a factor, and this is a factor. So what can I cancel out? I can cancel my x minus 5 is gone. And I end up with 3 over 2x plus 1. And the last example for today. Go and copy it down, pause it, and we'll continue once you're ready. So this expression, we need to simplify, and now we are very tempted to cancel those two terms out, but because of this minus, they're not multiplying, so we cannot cancel them out. We can only multiply, we can only cancel factors. If this was written slightly different, if this was written in the form of 9x to the third times 6x squared, then we will be able to cancel it out. But because of the minus, you can't. It's not a valid step. So whenever you encounter this, we have a monomial. We have one term. I'm going to factor my denominator, so therefore I can kind of figure out what to do with this part. On my denominator, I have a binomial. And I know it's not the difference of two squares. 9 is a square, but we have x to the third. And then 6 is not a square either. So therefore, I'm going to take out my common factor. What number divides 9 and 6? I can factor a 3. Then how many x's can I take out? This one has 3 and this one has 2, so I can factor 2 x's. So I can take out a 3x squared. And what's left behind? 3x squared times what will give you 9x to the third? So 3 times 3. I have x squared and I need 3x's, so I need one more. So 3 times 3 is 9, 2x's, and one more gives me 3. What do I need to multiply 3x squared to end up with negative 6x squared? Will be negative 2. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Do I need another x? Well, I have x squared, and I only need x squared, so I do not need another x. So therefore, I need to factor out the 3x squared from here. And what's left behind? 3x squared times what will give you 6x squared? 2. So therefore, we can cancel a 3x squared is gone. And that's why I usually start, whenever I have a monomial, I usually start with the other one so I can see what I need to factor on that from the monomial. So this is a very just algebraic skills that you guys will need for Algebra 2. So try the last one. This is a trinomial. So for your trinomial, you'll need double parentheses. And this is a monomial, so very similar to this problem. See what you get, and then we'll check your answers. Go and pause it. Excellent. So in this case, what are the factors of 5x squared? It will be 5x and x. What are the factors of 4? I can use 4 times 1 or 2 times 2. Now that's a positive 4. That means that they need to have both the same sign, both positives or both negatives. And they need to add up to a negative 12x. So therefore they both should be negative. And factors of 4 are 4 and 1 or 2. Well, if I place my 4 in here, that's 20. That's too big. So I'm going to use 2 and 2. Because if I multiply this out, that gives me 10. And 2 more is the 12 that I need. Denominator. What can I factor out? It's a binomial. And I know it's not the difference of two squares because 15 is not a square. So I'm going to take out a common factor. 1 over divides 15 and 6. I can take out a 3. X's. 3 and 4. How many can I take out? 3 of them. And what's left behind? 3 times what will give you 15? 5. X3. I need x4, so I need 1 more. 3x to the third times what will give you negative 6x to the third? So it'll be minus 2. That 5x minus 2 cancels out. And now I have x minus 2 over 3x to the third. So that is our lesson for today. Email me if you have any questions. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys